And here we go. So this is an overview of the case management position and the expectations that are required. So I'm going to go through them. I'm going to say what they are briefly, and then I'm going to go through each of them in more detail. So these requirements come from WIOA, which is the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act. That's where CUNY Adult Literacy Programs get our funding from, and they have certain requirements of case management. So the first requirement is to register in Job Zone. All students must register in Job Zone. So that's one. I'll go into that a little more detail on that soon. Another is to use Career Kit activities. There is no specified number of activities, but programs just need to use some amount of Career Kit activities, which we'll talk about today. And then the next thing is that case managers have to help students develop a next step plan. So a next step plan means what are they going to do when they have finished your program. So for lower level students, they would be going to a higher level. For higher level students, we really have to figure out with them what they want to do next. And the last requirement is to support students. So in some cases, that means giving them referrals. In some cases, it means just being really encouraging and supporting them, maybe helping them resolve any conflicts, communicate with instructors, things like that. So now I'm going to go into more detail on each of those requirements. So for Job Zone, so for every student must be registered in Job Zone, and I have the link right here to Job Zone. So what I recommend is that you follow that link and you explore the website and you practice using it so that you're prepared to lead that with students. We've been told by campuses who have already started doing this that it's easiest if students already have an email account before you do the activity where they register in Job Zone. So you may have them go to the computer lab, set up a free email account, make sure to write down the username and password, and maybe practice using it by sending you an email before they register for Job Zone. I also recommend having at least 2 staff people in the room in the computer lab when you're doing this. Computer activities with students tend to be really, really difficult to keep all students together. So it's really helpful to have more than one person who's circulating and helping students. Along those lines, I wrote a kind of tip sheet for how to lead students through a website navigation, which is in the user's guide of the Career Kits. So we'll go there right now, and I will talk through a few of the points. So this is the user's guide to the NYSEG CUNY Career Kits. I wrote it based on suggestions from people who were using the Career Kits about some pointers that would be helpful. And so we're going to look at the table of contents. Toward the bottom, you see number 15, how to lead students through a website navigation. So I wrote this up because what I have found in leading activities, website activities with students, is that it can be very, very chaotic. Students can kind of be all over the place, have difficulty finding pages. It's hard to keep them together. And over the course of many years of doing website activities with students, I have developed some strategies that I think would be helpful to share. So the first I mentioned already, have a helper, circulate. So have people circulating to make sure that all the students are staying together. Another pointer is when you're having students go to a website, write the URL on the board and write the pathway. So if you want them to go to the BMCC website, bmcc.cuny.edu, then click on academics, then click on course schedule. It's good if you write that whole pathway so that students just have that to refer to. The next point is really important, and that is to keep students together. So the way you keep students together is to give them one tiny instruction at a time and do very, very heavy scaffolding of this activity. So instead of doing what I just set up here, where you're going to say, go to BMCC, then click on academics, then click on course schedule, you're going to say just the first part. Okay, everyone, go to bmcc.cuny.edu. Once you're there, I'll tell you the next thing. And you don't go, then you circulate, and you don't move on until everyone is with you. Okay, now click on academics. Circulate, make sure everyone is with you. That point, that really, really helps keep everyone together so it's not chaotic. Before you do any of that, one thing that I like to do that helps ground students in what they're looking at is to, before you ask them to click on anything, is to ask a series of open-ended questions that helps them get grounded and kind of analyze what they see before them. So you might ask questions like, what do you see on this page? Just a very open-ended question. They might see, I see pictures, I see BMCC with a sunburst, it says go anywhere. So they're just saying what they see. And then you can ask follow-up questions. What do you think this website is for? What kind of information do you think is here? So before they've clicked, they don't really know yet, but they're engaging their background knowledge. They're saying what they think might be here. That also gets at purpose, which they may be working on in their reading and writing class. So thinking about who is this for? What's the purpose? How do you think it can be used? And so you really have a rich conversation around that before you move on to them navigating the website. And so once they have a sense, that's just an idea, it's just kind of a guess about what this website might be all about, then it's easier for them to navigate inside of it. So those are some of the tips. We're gonna go back here. And the other point is that you can use JobZone to develop digital literacy. So they're going to be practicing, like I was just saying in the open-ended questions, they're going to be practicing how do you navigate, how do you find what you're looking for. Okay, so that was JobZone. The next requirement are the career kits. So the career kits are a vast library of career exploration resources. We wrote them when these requirements from WIOA to do career exploration work with students came down. And we wrote them in such a way so that academic skills are embedded in the career exploration lesson so that they can be used by teachers or by case managers. So if you are working with a teacher, you can do them as they're written in a very academic way. If you're a case manager who may have less teaching experience, you can kind of dial down the academics so you're focusing more on the career content. Bullet point number 2, I just want to remind you that any number of career kits satisfies the career kit WIOA requirement. So there is no set number of activities that you need to use. Again, it can be used by teachers or case managers. A lot of the career kit activities can be used to develop the next step plan, which is one of the other requirements, which we'll talk about next. I have been doing some brain workshops on using the career kits for next step planning. I do not have another one scheduled right now, but there probably will be one scheduled in the future, so you can keep an eye out on that. So now we're going to go to the Career Kit website, and I'm going to show you what that looks like and where you can find the materials. So this is the Career Kit website. There are 11 career kits, one called Career Fundamentals, and one in each of 10 industry sectors. That's what you see here in the middle of the page. The structure of the career kits is very similar. So if you kind of learn the structure of Career Fundamentals, when you go to one of these other sector-based kits, you're going to see very similar activities structured in a very similar way. All of the activities are available for download, and they are organized by unit. Each unit is its own PDF, and so you use the table of contents, then you go to the unit, and you just scroll through to find the activity that you're looking for. So I'm going to walk through the table of contents and talk about what's in each unit. So this is Career Fundamentals. Career Fundamentals is the career kit that is not sector specific. So it includes examples from a variety of different sectors. And so I'm going to walk you through it. So Unit 1 is today's labor market. This is the big picture. So the students are looking at things like a description of the 10 big sectors we look at. What is some basic vocabulary around labor? So in that activity, they learn terms like employer, employee. They look at bar graphs that show how each sector is doing in the labor market, which sectors have a lot of job openings, which have less. Technology's impact on the labor market. So these are kind of very big picture questions. The next unit is called Knowing Myself. In this unit, students are developing self-awareness around their career interests. And once they figure that out, they go to career databases and they read descriptions of individual careers. A lot of these databases also have a self-assessment tool where students are asked a series of questions about themselves, and then based on their answers, certain careers are recommended. In this unit, we also have a financial literacy series where we talk about things like what's the difference between a check cashing service and a bank account, working with a budget, if I'm applying for a job and I know the salary or the wages, how do I figure out how much I need to earn to cover my personal expenses and things like that. So again, Unit 2 is really self-reflecting on their own interests and their own needs. Then in Unit 3, we talk about how to get prepared to enter the career they now have come to discover they're interested in. So it's about the education pathway. We have materials on exploring CUNY degrees, looking at job training programs. We have narratives from people who have moved between jobs within a sector and kind of what that looked like and the steps they took to move from one job to another. So that's that unit. It's all about the pathway. How do I prepare for this career? The next unit, in their own words, is a personal take. So by now they've gotten a lot of official information on the careers from labor market data and things like that. So now they're hearing from actual workers talking about their actual experience in a job. So this unit has career videos where you see someone in their workplace talking about their experience of their job. And then we have written narratives, which are pretty similar to the video narratives, but they're in writing. They may be in the form of an interview or a first-person narrative. And again, it's somebody talking about what their day-to-day is like, what time they get to work, what they do at work, materials they use, other jobs they interact with, how they got a promotion. And students really connect to this unit because it's personal. So they can see one person in their job and exactly what that looks like. The next unit, Unit 5, is choosing a career, finding a job, and it's about narrowing down to choose one career and kind of the nuts and bolts of finding a job. So we have activities like identifying your network. That can often be something really challenging for students. They often say, well, I don't have a network, and we help them think through, okay, who do you know who has a job, and how can this become your career network? If you met someone who has your dream job, how would you develop questions to ask them about what it's like to work in their job? We have some activities around civil service so that students can learn what that is, how you can come to work in civil service, about the exam system and all of that. We have an activity around developing language that you can use in a job interview to describe yourself. We have an activity around interpreting help wanted ads. We have another one around comparing two very different job offers and how you can choose a job when you have, as we always do when we have a job offer, some knowns and some unknowns about the job. How can you make that determination? And we have a series about starting your own business. And the last unit is about parenting. So a lot of our students are parents. This unit is not about working in a career, but we know that many students, in addition to the paid work they may have or may have in the future, we know they also have the unpaid work of parenting. And so we have a lot of activities around various parenting topics. And again, all of these activities are literacy activities and numeracy activities. So while students are learning about careers, they're learning it through reading activities, writing activities, math activities, and computer activities. So that is the career kits. Again, the structure of this, which is career fundamentals, is the same structure that you'll see in each of the sector-based career kits. We also have Collect Ed and Why, which is where we have some supplemental materials to the career kit. So when people make adaptations, we've had people make ESL adaptations. We post them there. I also post articles that I come across that may be relevant, kind of teaching tips, a whole variety of career-related topics. That's Collect Ed. On Collect Ed, I have 2 screencasts, which is kind of like a recorded webinar, which if you're new to the career kits, I strongly recommend you look at. This one is Introduction to the Career Kits. That's the first one. The next one is called Academic Approaches to Career Exploration. And that's this whole idea that you can do 2 things at the same time. You can do career exploration through academic activities. And, you know, we created the career kits in this way because for especially HSC teachers, it's really a huge project to get students to pass the task exam, and adding career exploration is a lot. And so we said, okay, you know what, we can do 2 things at the same time. They can continue doing all the reading and writing activities that they were doing before, but using content around careers. So that's a career kit. I recommend that you go to the website and you do some exploring there. We also have a kind of recommended series of activities in a portfolio project that I'll go through in a few minutes. Next step planning. So all students must have a next step plan. For lower level students, the next step plan is moving to the higher level. For upper level students, we need to help them figure out what their career interests are and what the next steps are along that pathway. So you can use a lot of the Career Kit activities, as I mentioned, to do that next step planning. I do have a RAIN workshop that I've done called Using the Career Kits for Next Step Planning. I will probably offer that again in the future. So one of the ways that you can fulfill all of these, so that you can show that you're fulfilling all of these requirements, is through a career planning portfolio. If students do the portfolio, it documents that you fulfilled all of these WIOA requirements. So I'm going to go through the portfolio here. You should check it out and see what you think, and discuss it with your manager to decide if this is something that you want to do. All of these activities can be adapted. So if you see an activity and you think, well, I kind of like it, but it seems too hard for my students, you should feel free to adapt it. So you can look at this in greater detail on your own. As you can see, there are a lot of links in here, but I'll just go through the main idea. So the main idea is that in week 1, or early on in the semester, there's going to be some kind of survey about students' interests. And I know that a lot of programs already do something like this. Then we're going to do this activity called Introducing 10 Sectors, where they do some reading and some thinking about their preferences of these 10 sectors. Then you're going to do some job zone work. What I recommend is that Job Zone is a pretty difficult site. So it is a requirement to get students registered in Job Zone. So I recommend that you do that. But then when you do deeper career exploration, that you use some of the other career databases. One I like to use is My Next Move. It's very kind of visually clear, and the written descriptions of the careers are clear. I think it's well organized. And it's pretty easy to navigate. So students can do some exploring in that, and we have some activities that go along with that. And then you're going to have to kind of differentiate more and figure out what students' individual interests are and what the next steps are. So in My Next Move, one of the things I really like about it is you can link to actual help wanted ads in those careers. So if someone is researching medical assistant and they read all about medical assistant, there's a little link at the bottom that says find jobs or something like that. So I will show you this right now. So this is My Next Move. We will look at a sample career. I put in medical assistant, which, by the way, I think is a good move for a lot of our students who are working as maybe as home health aides. Medical assistant is a good next step. So at the bottom, you see Find Jobs. So if you click Find Jobs, you put in your zip code, so it's local jobs. And then you can see all of these jobs here that are in basically our local area. And when you click on them, you will see what the educational requirements are. So this one says high school diploma or GED. So we could look at another one. Okay, oh wait, that's the same company. Let's look at another one. This one requires, let's see. So this one, what does it say? Job not available. Okay, let's try another one. So this one requires a high school diploma also. So this is a good way to see what the jobs, the local jobs actually require, because when you read the description, it might say what level of education is required, but that's really a generalization. So it's good to go in and look at real job ads and see what those real jobs are requiring. If you have several students who are interested in the same career, it makes sense to group them together and do their career planning together. In some cases, you'll need to meet individually with students, but it's great if you can form little groups and work with them together. And there are a bunch of activities in the career kits where they can explore CUNY degree programs, and they can also look at job training programs. So what I recommend is that a portfolio could include the survey you use at the beginning, the job zone document, the job zone confirmation page. So you can show, yes, this student did register in job zone. The self-assessment, which could be on ONET or it could be on Career Cruising, and that's where the student has answered a bunch of questions about their interests, and then then there's the results are returned. So it says, oh, based on your interests, we recommend these 30 careers for you or whatever. And then you could have them figure out which training program or degree program would be a good next step for them. So that's going to take quite a bit of work. And that's, again, like individual or small group work that you may need to do with students. And it's really just about going step by step. So, okay, we went to My Next Move, we read the description, we saw the credentials that are required. Now let's figure out within CUNY or within our local area, where are the preparation programs that will fulfill that requirement? And then I have this summary at the end where students kind of write about their process in researching their career pathway. So here I have, what careers are you interested in? What makes you interested in them? Why do you think they're a good fit for you? What would your next steps be, etc. Again, you can feel free to adapt this. It's just kind of a way to pull it all together so students feel like, okay, I did all of this work, and now I have this new understanding of what a possible pathway could be. So that's the portfolio. Again, it is not required. This is just one way that I came up with to show that you've met the WIOA requirements. So you should absolutely check with your manager about whether or not you want to use this portfolio. RAIN professional development. So all staff are required to have 14 hours of professional development. The RAIN is a regional adult education network. This is, among other things, the training arm of the New York State Education Department. So the professional development that staff do has to go through the RAIN. So it means that, unfortunately, if you found this amazing workshop that you want to take somewhere else, it's probably not going to count toward your 14 hours. However, a lot of the professional development that the RAIN offers is performed by me and my colleagues in the CUNY professional development unit here. If you have not completed the survey about when you're available, you should do so. And you should also let me know what workshops would be useful for you. So some that I've done in the past that I will probably offer again are step-by-step referrals. So giving referrals is actually a complicated and lengthy process, even though it seems like you just write a phone number down and give it to a student. When you just write a phone number down and give it to a student, usually they don't use it because they don't really know exactly what to say, what to do, what to bring, where to go. It is actually a very involved process, and I have done this workshop twice so far about how to break it down and how to use that process as a method of helping students develop the skills that they need to access the service. So it's not only about knowing what number to call or where to go, but it's about asking the right questions, describing your issue, taking notes, asking follow-up questions, all of those things that many of us know how to do, but our students don't necessarily know how to do. Using the career kits for next step planning is another one I've done. I may offer it again in the future. The RAIN offers trainings on Job Zone. I do not offer those workshops, but the RAIN offers them. They also do Introduction to the Career Kits. And you, again, should tell me what other workshops you think would be helpful. Supporting student persistence. So another big job of the case manager is to help the student with whatever they seem to be struggling with non-academically. So sometimes this means just being encouraging when they feel really discouraged, they feel like they're not making progress, they feel like they want to withdraw from the program because they're not making progress. And so part of the work is to encourage them, and part of doing that is to show them that they've been making progress. Another thing that comes up a lot is various obstacles to their participation. So that could be logistic kind of scheduling things like, I need to babysit my niece, I have to take my grandma to the doctor, those kinds of things. Or they could be experiencing a lot of hardship in their life that it's really hard to focus in class because they have this big struggle in their life outside of class. And that may lead to you giving them referrals, the third bullet point here, which, as I mentioned, is a lengthy process. By the way, I wrote a post on CollectEd about the last workshop I did on step-by-step making referrals, and I recommend that you go to CollectEd and you look for that post on making referrals. Oh, here is that post. The link to that post is right here. So that's on student persistence. That is a really important part of the job. More on supporting student persistence. So one thing that's really important is that students be able to see their accomplishments. And because the road before them is so long, sometimes it's very hard for them to feel like they're making accomplishments. One thing that is very useful is to meet with them about it and to say, oh, I notice you are doing this great thing. I notice that even though it might seem very small, you used to be 20 minutes late for class every day, and now you're 5 minutes late to class every day. That's a really good improvement. So here I say, no matter how small. So it's especially for students who really, really struggle, it's really, really important that they be able to see their accomplishments. Ideally, we want the acknowledgement of accomplishments to come from them, like for them to be able to say, I accomplished this thing. Sometimes, and you want to ask questions that help them do that. But sometimes it's also helpful for them to hear from someone else who's saying, I've noticed that you're doing these things well. When a student is has attitude, is resistant, is not doing their homework, those are all a sign that they have some fears and some challenges going on. The best way to help them participate more fully is to allow them to speak about those fears. So just create that opening. You can acknowledge that some of the behaviors they've been exhibiting are probably not going to help them reach their goals, and you can dig under that and ask about those behaviors. So it's very important. Let them voice their fears. You may see that there are certain social emotional skills that you think they need to develop. And you can work with students on those skills, whatever they may be. If it's working with others, if it's staying awake in class, like whatever it is that you see, you should feel free to work with students on those things. We already talked about this, but articulate what you see as their strengths, provide examples, be very clear in saying that. And in working on social emotional skills, you can use, and it's most effective to use the strategies that you would use if you were a teacher. So I know that some of you have teaching backgrounds. The same skills that you use, making observations, having discussions, expanding vocabulary, practicing the vocabulary, applying the vocabulary, evaluating their work, revising their work, all of those things are teaching strategies. And all of those things you can use in helping students develop social emotional skills. The truth is that case managers are teachers. So case managers are teachers, and their content is many things. So their content is careers and career pathways, and their content is also social emotional skills. So when you give students the opportunity to practice their social emotional skills, you're going to improve, just like they improve their academics. The last point here is this term that I read about several years ago about being a warm demander. So a warm demander is someone who a student can tell, a student feels good around this person because this person is being really encouraging and is not being critical in kind of a nasty way, but at the same time is holding the student to high expectations. So when you're a warm demander, a student can tell that you care about them, even though that you have really high expectations of them. Saying things like, well, you know, it's okay, like they didn't really do the assignment, but that's okay. That's not being a warm demander, and that's not helping the student. What would be helpful to the student is saying, you know what, I know that you can do this. So let's take it slowly. Let's walk through it step by step. Let's give you some more time for this. I know that this is something you can do. So in that way, the student feels that you're being caring about them and you're having expectations of them in a caring way. Collaborating with teachers. So you are on a team with teachers. Teachers and case managers often receive different kinds of information from students about themselves and their lives and their challenges and their strengths. It's important that case managers and teachers exchange that information so that you can all support students and get the best work out of them. So you should have team knowledge, meaning everyone on the team should know about what the students' obstacles and challenges are, what their strengths and accomplishments are, and what their career interests are. When teachers know what the career interests of students are, they can relate that to the academic work that they're doing in class. So if students sometimes feel like, oh God, I'm never gonna use, you know, percentages in the real world, if teachers know what the career interests are, they can connect that academic work with the career interests. You should know what the academic topics and skills are that are being taught in class so that you can have that information when you're talking to students. And you should also exchange information about what you're observing in the student outside of class and also inside of class. so that you know if a student has been falling asleep in class or getting really agitated, if no one wants to work with them because they're being really difficult. Those are good things for the whole team to know. So in order to do that as a team, you need to create some system for exchanging information. It could be some kind of written note system. I recommend it's some kind of talking system, even if you have some kind of writing system, where maybe you meet for 10 minutes after every class all together. Maybe you have a weekly meeting. You know, it can take many forms, but it's important that as a team, you figure out what that structure is going to be. Next steps. So you need to familiarize yourself with Job Zone if you're not already familiar with it. Familiarize yourself with the career planning portfolio. Check with your director about if they want you to do the career planning portfolio, if you need to make any adaptations to it. Familiarize yourself with the career kits. I recommend that you read the user's guide, which is on the same website with all the career kit materials. Familiarize yourself with campus, local, and city referrals. So you're going to have to be making referrals. So you need to know what those places are. You need to know not only what they are and where they are, but if they're good. So we don't want to be sending students to places that aren't going to help them solve their problems. So we need to really do some research to figure out where are the good places. Can you make a contact there? What are the eligibility requirements? What services do they provide? What do people generally need to bring to appointments? All of those things, you need to do some research and figure out what those are. You need to form a team with the teachers. So you need to develop a relationship there, learn about their classes, what are they working on, make a plan for exchanging information. They may welcome you, they may have kind of an open door policy where you can come into the class at any time. They may want you to come in only at particular times. So figure out kind of what their working style is and how you can work together. If you have not yet completed the professional development survey, please do that as soon as possible. And for professional development, you can look at the RAIN calendar. So I have the link right there. And let me know, again, if there are particular workshops you would like for me to offer. So that is all. Be in touch with me about anything related to case management. I am also starting to make campus visits, so I will be visiting you soon.